Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands.
upcoming tours,
And show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of July 24th, 2023.
Welcome back, and Fish Tour is in full swing. The Disco Biscuits destroyed the left coast, and I am here with Amanda. How you doing?
Hi, Kevin. I am doing well. Kind of funny to think that we're rolling into the last little bit of July, but here we are.
Yes. Went down to Wilmington on Tuesday to see Fish. I thought there was a really one good set. If you took all the songs I really liked, half that show was fantastic. Neat little venue. It was completely flat. Apparently the next night there was lightning and there was hard to evacuate from this place, which I can see a lot of people were complaining about it. But on my way back, we only went Tuesday night. Coming back Wednesday, we drove into a tornado coming up 95, and we're really in the middle of a tornado, apparently. Blew the windows on the car out, pelted the car with branches and leaves, and after it was over, it lasted like 30 seconds. I got out of the car. We were standing in the middle of a circle that everything around us had been destroyed. And it was one of the single strangest things that ever happened. It's taken me, I'm still processing. It's taken me a few days to work through it, but it makes you think that something somewhere is telling me there's a reason. And here we are today. And how was your week?
Well, Kevin, first, I just want to say I'm so glad you're all right. And that kind of stuff does take a little while to just kind of think through. But I'm so glad you're here to talk about it and talk about music with me. My week was not nearly as exciting. So I think I'm going to probably just leave it at that.
There we go. I'm going back and trying Fish again next week. I'll be at the Man on Tuesday and Wednesday. If anybody is going to be there tomorrow and Wednesday, check me out. All right. So, do you have anything going on this week then? Let's try that.
Yeah, I know, right? Amanda, where are you at? Yeah, so coming up this week, actually, next weekend, wait, hold on. Coming up this week, I'm going to be seeing some local bands, including the Pamlico Sound. Recently talked with Will, the leader of that band. Had a great chat with him. They've got a really kind of cool local show coming up. And then also going to see some other local music here in Denver. There's just a lot of that going on these days. Have some bigger shows coming up toward the end of the month, but this week I'll be seeing a couple things here around town.
Right. You also are going to have Surprise Chef, which are an Australian band. We did our longest, I guess, distance interview last week also with Melbourne, Australia's Surprise Chef.
That's right. So that'll be coming up in about a month, and I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, we're gonna get you in there to meet him, get some pictures with the guys. The guy we talked to, Stucky, was fantastic. We had a really great talk with him, and Will also. You're gonna hear all of this in the next couple weeks, so make sure you're there checking in every day to see what we're dropping. But why don't we just jump right into the
top 3 stories of the week.
All right, cool. Yep, got some stories for this week as always. Going to start with something that's Colorado based. It's hard to get away from this when we're talking about music. Sound Tribe. Sound Tribe Sector 9, of course, been around for so long. They're always trying new things. They have just unveiled something called Chroma Light at Red Rocks. And this concept is inspired by their interest in the connection between sound and light. So colors that they associate with musical notes. I mean, this is a thing. I've definitely read about this before, but trying to tap into what they call the power of harmony between those two things. And so the theme for those shows was Sound of the Light. And each night at Red Rocks featured one Chroma Light set. And there's some video out there. There's some pictures. is pretty awesome. I definitely think that's something that, if you weren't there, try to find some of that, and it's pretty cool.
So basically, if the key was in E, the lighting would look different than if the key was in G.
That's right. Yeah, and I guess there's actually some science behind that. When sound evokes an experience of either colors, shapes, or movement, and I have definitely heard and read before that some people just naturally listen to music that way, right? They kind of involuntarily, kind of in their minds, get taken to these different types of associations. So what Sound Tribe is doing is bringing that to everybody.
Fantastic. I'm going to have to dig that up. We will put a link out there for everybody on our socials. So check that
Really,
out.
it's definitely awesome. And I know a bunch of people that were at those shows and said, similar to you, Kevin, that they've got to process it, that it's going to take them a little while to figure out exactly how to talk about that experience because it's pretty unique. So yeah, so Sound Tribe pushing the boundaries of what we think of as live music experiences. Next one, another kind of pushing. This one pushing the limits to where people will go to try to defend the music they love. Now we all know, and I respect so much Karina Rykman, but sometimes, and I'll speak, Kevin, as a woman. And as someone who tends to look a little bit, younger, if I'm just out in like a t-shirt and a baseball cap, Karina Rykman is a huge Rush fan. She was out and about recently, and she was out and about recently, and some random dude came up to her, obviously not knowing who she was, and asked her to name one Rush album. Now, Kevin, you know this happens, right?
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Hasn't happened to me in a long time, but I've been there. Well, I can tell you that she was more than up to the challenge, and she tore through this guy in an Instagram post, and it is going kind of pretty big. There's a lot of views on it. Basically, she has been a huge fan of theirs for decades. Obviously, a musician in her own right. Her response has gotten so much attention that the Rush official Instagram account told her that they absolutely love her for being a great fan. They're going to send her some stuff. And hopefully, whoever that guy was has seen this and maybe won't do that again.
They should send her a plane ticket to get to hang out with Getty Lee, is what they should do.
Right? I mean, as somebody who just loves seeing, her up on stage doing her thing, she is a music fan through and through. But honestly, Kevin, it shouldn't matter, right? Just wearing a
No,
t-shirt. Yeah,
not at
100%.
all.
But
I have a lot of female friends who experience that kind of dumb stuff from people, and I don't understand it because there's plenty of dudes I know who couldn't name 3 songs.
oh yeah, 100%. I mean, and it goes both ways, definitely. Yeah, I have
And
not.
Rush is easy. Rush is easy. All you have to do is say Rush because their first album was self-titled.
I bet that dude wasn't even thinking about it. Probably things just come out of people's mouths, and it's been a while since I've gotten something like that. But I've definitely been at shows and had people very kindly explain to me who the band was, as if I did not know. But hey,
Yeah, I
we get
work for him. Thanks.
exactly. 100%. Okay, so Karina, thank you for doing that. I'm glad she put that out there. All right, third story this week, and Kev, thank you for kind of tipping me off to this one. This actually will kind of align with some other really great stuff I'm going to share later in the show today. Dead and Company, as we know, and have been talking about, we're at this place now where I think there's going to be a lot of looking back, a lot of people kind of discussing their feelings and thoughts on not only this past tour but everything that Dead and Company has done over the years. So I've got a couple quick facts here about the final tour, but also about kind of their longevity too. So let me run through a couple of these. And Kev, I'm curious to see if any of these really surprise you, or if, for a huge fan like you, you're thinking, okay, this makes sense. So number of fans at this final tour, just this last tour, was just about 850,000. Pretty
Okay.
amazing. That's a lot
Yeah,
of
I
people.
mean, I know I saw 2 shows, so even if you had 500,000 unique people showing up.
Yeah, and there wasn't, of course, the researcher in me wants to know exactly how they're getting that number, but I'm going to put that to the side and just go with with what's out there.
It's
Um,
probably just number of tickets reported sold.
right? I would think so because there's no way to know, exactly how many unique people that is. But regardless, definitely a ton. And I guess to follow up with that, the tour itself grossed just about $115 million during this final run alone.
Yeah. Makes sense. I mean, yeah, people are like looking at that number. My God, there's six of them, and I'm sure Bobby made more money than Jay, which is
Mhm.
fair. It's Bobby's name that's packing the stadium. But they got a crew of 30 people and all that equipment, you know, I
Mhm.
don't, I think you need to cut that in half, and that's how much it costs to put on the 29 to 31 shows, whether you're counting through Jazz Fest or just the tour proper, you know?
Absolutely. And I want to kind of bring that out to the larger economic impact too on cities that are hosting these shows. So if we just focus on San Francisco for a second, 118,000 tickets sold for those three shows at Oracle Park. That brought in a little over $20.4 million in ticket revenue. Okay. But for San Francisco itself, almost $31 million to the city in all of the different ways you can imagine, right? Tourism, people coming in, they've got to eat, they've got to get around, where are they going to stay? So that's something that we don't always think about, but I'm glad that that's something that's being reported to.
Yep. When I talked to Matt Bush on Thursday night, we touched on this a little bit, and he said, vendors that he spoke to just to have done every tour since Dead and Company started said they made twice, three times as much this summer as they had any other year.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. But you know what? People are out and they're in the mindset of celebrating, right? This is going to be that last hurrah. So makes sense. I'll give you one more here. I thought this was interesting. So during this tour, 112 different songs were played, but across all 10 tours, that number in total was 145. So, not necessarily the same songs all, but just to give you a sense of the variety, right, of the way they were able to expand. That's not something that they needed to do. That's pretty impressive to me.
I do not have the number in front of me, but I know that there were like 20 plus one timers, songs that got done one time. So that's interesting. That seems like almost every show or two had a song that, you only got in that town. Or
That's right.
that, there was a bunch of only played twice. Like Loser showed up in San Francisco. Bobby called an audible and threw that in, and it had only been played once. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that just goes to prove, which we all know, that there's no phone in this tour. They really went out there and they worked, to give everybody a great experience. And I'm sure for them it was the same. So love that.
like
Hopefully, those are some interesting stats there.
right, keep in mind that the 60th anniversary is coming up, not next year, but the year after. So I'm sure that something will, whether it's a fare thee well type thing, I have a feeling in my gut something will happen then.
I'm sure. I mean, there's still plenty of people out there, in that sphere that have the energy and I'm sure the willingness. Plus, as we can see, it's not exactly something that isn't profitable. So on all sides, I'm sure
Right.
there's going to be reasons to do it. I mean, just being realistic.
Exactly. And they left on such a high note that people want it. So,
That's right. And I'm really glad for that. I'm glad that that's what happened. I had no doubts, but at the same time, these days, Kevin, you just don't know. Right. And
right.
so the fact that it really went the way it did, and I've heard nothing but love, and we'll hear actually a little bit about that after our interview
Yep.
tonight. Some thoughts and feelings on all this.
Right. Now, who is the interview this week?
Oh, yes. So we were able to chat with Brian J. Brian J., best known for his work as, I would say, the leader and orchestrator of Pimps of Joytime, one of my absolute favorite bands. So this was a great interview that we had. And, he's someone that's a little bit quieter, not always going to be out there in front, but really prolific in his own right. And so, yeah, we had a chance to chat with him, Kevin. Um, and, one of the things that I really loved, and I hopefully this comes through in our conversation, is just the evolution for Brian of his own music over time. I think I actually brought up one of the early, if not the first, Pimps of Joytime album, and he even remarked, "Wow, like that was something that I wouldn't do right now, but here I am, and constantly trying to learn and change." So why don't we get into that interview actually, and you'll hear a little bit more from Brian about that. I kind of hear the word evolution used all the time, changes in whether it's lineup or just even like musical direction. But I was thinking about it, I'm like, maybe some of those things are just because you've got a lot of different influences, and it's not so much that things change, it's just more what's coming in to your head that you want to be doing at any point in time.
It's a combination of the two things. Yeah, there's a lot of music, inside me that I want to create, but I'm also growing. I feel like I'm getting so much. Things get deeper as you get a little older, and so yeah, it's really just a passion, and it's a high. It's to be creating music. It's like the best feeling, and to be growing. And it's like this never ending mission to just hit this higher place, with in the creative process.
Where do you feel like, are there moments where you can point to, whether it's live or something that has been recorded, where you're like, yeah, that right there was like the thing?
Well, that changes. It's hard to even look back. It's like the things that I've released. Yes, some of them hit up like a higher realm than others. But I'm always like, now I'm just at the moment thinking of what I have on the table right now, like the tracks I'm working on and the projects I have going. Um, but live, yeah, sure, live. Like in the history of Pimps of Joy Time, like there was one of our Floyd Fest. There's like a couple different festivals we've done. High Sierra, we've had some sets. Definitely this one Floyd Fest, which is like people still come up to me and talk about this set. That it was just like one of those things where everything was the right timing. It was the right timing in that particular evolution of the band, where we felt like we wanted to say a lot, and then we get to this. Was the last set of the festival, and usually they're like, "All right, you got an hour and 15 minutes. Don't go 1 minute over." That's the usual thing that you get. But we showed up to this set, and the stage manager was like, "Hey, man, if you think you can just play a little longer," I was like, "Say less." We wound up playing I think it was 4 hours. It was just like this epic journey musically. And there was like this mechanical dragon. It was just this perfect combination of like where we were as a group, and that environment was like magical environment. It was one of those sets where things, it was magical.
Yeah.
So
Well, that location, yeah.
you get
It's
some of those from time to time. You get that with, you get, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of heartbreak. Oftentimes, like you'll have two things that are perfect, but it's like something else is kind of crazy, and it's like, oh man, that could have been amazing. There's a lot of that, but
yeah.
sometimes everything comes together.
Are you your own worst critic?
I'm definitely a harsh critic, but there's snobs out there, and you
Right.
definitely can't please and it's part of like, now I have Gitkin is so different, so I feel like some people that are a little snobby, they like that, but they don't like the other. So it's I
This is cool, but this isn't right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I try to create something that's exciting to me,
Right.
and
Yeah, we often hear from people that they'll walk off stage sometimes and be like, that was not there," and then they listen to a recording a week later and are like, "Wow, we really nailed it that night." There's a disconnect there, I think, between it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean that's nice when that happens. I think more often for me, it's like, yeah, I didn't feel like, but a lot of times it's not even, it's other elements outside of the
Mhm.
band and how good the band is at that given moment.
The
There's a
crowd
lot of,
sometimes, maybe.
especially if you're not on the sort of bigger budget thing, you don't have your own sound person, you don't have a lighting person, you don't have a stage man. There's so many just factors that are happening at any given moment that can create anxiety and stress. And but when everything comes together and it's, I mean, that's makes it all worthwhile when
Yeah.
you have those kind of nights.
All right, Kev. Yeah, so again, really, really great to hear, I think, firsthand from somebody like Brian who really does a lot, but a little bit more behind the scenes sometimes. We're going to get into this interview a little deeper into Brian's process when he is in the studio, which seems to be all the time. But before that, wanted to just remind everybody that we are on social media, of course, at All That Jam Pod, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, considering maybe some other social media sources, but I haven't pulled the trigger on those. Allthatjampod.com. And then, of course, online anywhere that you get podcasts. Um, Kevin's releasing content every day with relevant links and information. So make sure you check that out, like, and, give us some reviews when you can. All right, Kevin, let's get back into this interview. Brian really details the work that he does in the studio and what his process is. So let's give that a listen. Yeah.
So you want to walk through a little bit of your process in the studio, how
Sure.
you craft a song?
Yeah. Um, hmm. Well, my last record, which seems so long ago, but it came out less than a year ago, Reaching Up. A lot of that came from just 2 weeks. I was just alone, and I was using I have an 8-track tape machine here, and I just every day would come up with an instrumental that had sort of like an A section and a B section. It was just sort of like a sketch. And I did that every day for 2 weeks. And then over the course of the next year and a half, I would just develop those into songs. So that was kind of how that went.
And you do a lot of most of the instruments yourself when you're in the studio?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I mean, I'm an okay drummer, but I know how to do a thing that's effective for my music. And um, I'm a decent bass player. Though this last record, I had Pete Shan from New Master Sounds kind of redo a couple of my um, bass lines. Um, but I always have other singers. That's the thing on every record, that I love having singers that are better than me, be part of the thing. And that's sort of where my enthusiasm is heading towards, featuring other singers. And just as, like, the ego, it changes. I got a little older, and it's like all of a sudden I feel like I actually really like when I have other people singing lead now, and just playing that supportive role, and just being a little that mad scientist guy on stage, and not always needing to be that person that's up there. I mean, I'm definitely up there, but I've really been enjoying supporting other talented people around me.
Galactic has worked that for years, from the house man to
Yeah.
the woman. I'm totally spacing her name right now, but
Yeah.
Tamika?
With a
Tamika Moore?
There's a J and there's a K.
yeah, there's a yeah.
Well, yes, she's
But
Yeah,
I mean,
she has great.
Galactic has used that to brilliant effect over the
it's
years,
really,
bringing
yeah,
people in.
it's really great. Now that my ego's out of the way a little more, I feel like I'm really enjoying that thing, because it keeps it fresh. And I feel like I'm a okay singer, um, but it's just great hearing other voices other than my own. Yeah, so yeah.
Did you get Pete? Well, actually, when was that? Because I know that he hasn't been over here.
Yeah, no, we
You
just
know,
did it.
is it
He's
virtual?
on the island.
He's on the. He doesn't leave the island.
Yeah, yeah. So But that was during the pandemic. But we've had this
Okay.
ongoing sort of just really good mutual respect, and he sends me things, I send him things.
Nice.
One of the songs on the record was actually a thing that he sent me. It's funny because he sent me a thing like, "Hey man, can you write something to this?" And it's a thing that had like my guitar playing on it, but from years earlier that he. So I was like, "Oh wait, that's me." And then I wound up sort of like really liking what I did on the track. And then I was like, "Hey, how do you feel about us releasing this as Pimps of Joytime?" And he was down with it.
I love that question when we ask that, Amanda, about the studio process. Because we get so many different answers about, whether they want to write it beforehand, whether they want to build it in the studio, and it's fascinating the way that worked out with him. Next this week, let's see what we got going on here. Tomorrow, we got Jason Crosby, famous for playing with Phil Lesh, most notably, on his LP Crypto Logic. Gets into a little bit of something heavy with his brother passing and honoring his brother's memory with doing some of his brother's music and things like that. Wednesday, Houseplant is back on talking about some upcoming festival performances they have coming up, and they have an interesting way of doing things, Amanda. They're all like family guys jobs, so they can't go on the tour, so they look to the festival thing, the Goose After shows, and it seems to be working. They're building a little bit of a base there.
I agree, Kevin. I like that. I think it's good to know what makes the most sense, and they seem really comfortable with what they're doing.
Yep, exactly. They know that they're not going to be a fish ever, but they love playing their music and getting it out there. So that's when we go with. Thursday we got Escaper, Will Hansa spam back one about we last time we heard from them, we talked about their last EP, and this time talking about what they've been doing in the studio now and how that's different than what they normally did. So that'll be interesting. Friday, Tim Blum from the Mother Hips about their Later Days LP and life after American Records. It's hard. You're signed to a huge label, and then a couple albums later, they're like, "Yeah, we're scaling down. What's your next play?" Saturday, New Orleans Suspects, Jake Eckert is going to be on talking about playing with Colonel Bruce and Little Feat. So that's fascinating. That's a really long one. It's running over 10 minutes, but Jake loves to talk, and he is a great storyteller. And then next Saturday, Joe Marcinek on embracing the jam band label and bringing in musicians to play quote-unquote jam band shows like his Dead Funk Summit that really are not part of the jam band community, but totally fit in like a glove. And with that, let's talk about Brian J's band Gitkin in this clip for the interview. They're a surf rock more kind of thing, something completely different than what you get from Pimps at Joytime. So let's check that out. And on the other side, Amanda's going to take us into some audience participation. We'll see you on the other side. But one of the songs really reminded me of like a Miseraloo, or it had the surf rock almost kind of thing.
Gitkin has the surf and
Okay.
the cumbia, chicha. It's the world. Yeah, that's
I,
which
I
part of how Gitkin came out is after a lot of years of Pimps of Joytime. I decided to make something that didn't sound like me because I was getting a little tired of me. It's like, oh, there's me again. So many gigs, and so
this guy's always hanging around.
the genesis of Gitkin was like different tonality. I went like Middle Eastern. I went like cumbia instead of just different. And then of course, what invariably happened is that I realized, oh, this is just like another side of me, and that helped also kind of revive the Pimps of Joytime vibe. The two work together because I get to take a break and go be another entity for a minute.
It's interesting because Dick Dale has said that Miseraloo is based on some Turkish
Yeah,
little piece he found, some
yeah.
turn in the
I think
music.
he is. He's Turkish or he's
I think
something
he
Middle
is, yeah.
Eastern. Yeah. So yeah, there's definitely that influences in there, and it was fun. It was fun to just go into that
I'm
realm.
digging it. So does that tour?
We're just starting. We were about to announce our first European tour, and we opened for Steel Pulse last week. We did 2 shows with them, which was crazy. So, working on it.
Steel Pulse was old when I was new. So that's crazy. They're still kicking around.
Yeah, they're crushing it. They're like, yeah, it's happening. That band is for real. In New Orleans, it was sold out. It was just weed smoke. It was legit. It was happening.
Is weed legal in New Orleans now?
I think so. I
I
should
think
know
so.
that. I should know that question.
Gitkin, I hadn't really known much about them, but I'm really glad that I do now because it is a completely different sound. I don't know how one person can really create in so many different areas, but to me, I find that absolutely amazing. Also amazing, you know, as we've been talking about, and I don't think you can really overestimate this. It's going to take some time to really kind of sit back and I think understand the different ways that Dead and Company gave people maybe what they need, what they wanted. And so I thought it'd be interesting, Kevin. We'll do this over the next couple weeks or however long. I wanted to get some thoughts directly from people like us, right, the fans, about how they feel about the ending of Dead and Co. Maybe some favorite moments of theirs, music related or not. Um, Hopes, for the future of this community. What's next? Because this has been something people have kind of been able to rely on for, 10 tours. And then why is the community special? So I already have a whole bunch of responses. I'm just going to pick a couple here, Kev, to share today. And then hopefully I'll be able to get more. So, look online. I'm going to be continuing to post about this. In terms of the end of Dead and Co., or at least, this iteration, because I never say never know what's going to happen. Um, Couple of responses here. Um, Somewhat sad, but my life went on after Jerry. Got the memories to dance to. They'll always be there, and the friends. So a lot of people had similar things to say. Somebody also mentioned whether it's Brady retiring, Schitt's Creek ending, leaving a career, always of the mindset to go out on a high note. There's no doubt that Dead and Co did just that. So, Kev, we were just talking about that. They really did leave in such a positive way. Know when to hold him, know when to fold him. And that's important too, right, Kev? Being able to know and understand when it really is the best time and the right time to call something. It's not easy.
Yeah,
In terms,
you definitely don't want to run something into the ground. Like it's so sad. Like Alan Evans mentioned when we talked to him about going to see, somebody who was a hero of yours very late in their career and it just wasn't the same. And you knew it and the audience knew it and probably the artists themselves knew it.
right, right, and I think that that's something that could only translate into the music one way or another, whether people, are really trying to fight that or not. Got a couple more here in terms of highlights from this tour. Um, this one says, my musical experience included goosebumps and shivers, truly transcendent psychological effects. It was that good. I can't even find the words. Many times throughout the weekend, and this was San Francisco, when my face wasn't melting from a jam or the music wasn't moving my body, I would try to use words to describe what I was feeling, and wow was all I could muster up. I laughed and cried with pure joy. The energy was incredible. The crowd was incredible. You could feel it at the shows, but also throughout the entire city, whether people were going to the shows or not. It was contagious. That's pretty awesome.
That's
I love that.
fantastic.
Yes. And so, Kevin, I want to keep sharing these. Maybe we'll find different ways to post them, but definitely be on the lookout because I'd like to share, what everyone out there thinks too. I know there's a lot that people would have to say.
And one way, if you're really interested in checking it out, is to go on our socials and find these posts, and you can actually see what the people are writing, comment on it, leave us your own. Would
Yeah,
be fantastic.
absolutely.
So we will be getting back to that. Now, let me ask you, Amanda. We are the last full week in July right now. Then we have August. Then we have Dick's. And September 11th last year, oddly enough, was when our first episode was. We're coming up quickly on our year anniversary. I'm thinking that since I'm coming to Dick's and you're going to be there, we're probably going to take off that week as kind of a birthday present to ourselves. But I just wanted to thank everybody for supporting us, everybody who's jumped on over the past few months, and it's really just fantastic. And with that, you got anything else there, Amanda?
Well, no, I'm glad you mentioned that. I think I would just echo that. Oh, jeez.
Was that a
Sorry.
gunshot?
I'm going to say no. Something
Okay.
next door. Um, Kevin, I'm going to echo that. Yeah, I mean, and I think this has all been happening in a really natural way. I'm starting to see so many more artists sharing what we've got, and I have felt so much support. And so I'm excited to see where it goes.
Exactly. Yes, that's I like that. I've had a few musicians reach out to me and tell me that they love to hear what other musicians are thinking because they probably don't sit around and have the same conversations that we have. When they're on the road, they're probably just trading war stories as opposed to trying to get into theory and process with each other.
That's right, and just having a good time doing it. And I think that if there's one thread throughout all of our conversations, it's that we are really happy to be having those, and we really want to get to know everybody that comes on the show. So can't wait to see what's up for year two.
I'm with you there. And with that, I'm just going to say stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll talk to you soon, Amanda.
All right, thank you, Kevin. Good reminder.